Let's talk about something that could seriously end your drone career with one simple mistake. Today, we are digging into a topic that is absolutely essential for every single drone pilot out there: temporary flight restrictions, or TFRs. And trust me, getting this right isn't just about being a good pilot. It's about keeping your license and keeping your business running.
Okay, let's just start with this because it really says it all. Let that sink in for a second. This isn't just some scare tactic, it's the honest-to-goodness reality of flying in the national airspace system. One tiny oversight, one checklist item you skip before you take off could have absolutely devastating consequences.
You know, the FAA does not mess around with airspace violations, and flying into a TFR is one of the most common ways pilots, especially new Part 107 pilots, find themselves in a world of trouble. So our goal here today is simple. We're going to give you the rock-solid foundation to make sure that pilot is never, ever used.
All right, so what are we even talking about? What are these invisible fences in the sky that can get you into so much hot water? Let's break it all down. So here's the official FAA definition, but let's focus on the two most important words here: temporary and time critical. That's the kicker, right? Unlike a permanent airport boundary you see on a chart, a TFR can just pop up, sometimes with very little notice. And that's exactly what makes them so tricky if you're not actively looking for them.
And they're issued for all sorts of reasons you'd recognize from watching the news. Is the president flying into town? Bam, you've got a TFR. A major wildfire response? That's a TFR. The Super Bowl? Oh yeah, you bet that's a massive TFR. They exist to keep the sky clear and safe around a specific important event happening on the ground.
Now, to really get a handle on TFRs, it helps to see where they fit into the bigger picture. See, they're just one piece of a bigger puzzle called special use airspace. Let's take a quick look at a couple of other types you absolutely have to know, not just to fly safely, but to pass your test.
Okay, now this is a big one: prohibited areas. Think of the airspace over the White House. The rule is simple: don't go there, ever. They are total no-fly zones. But restricted areas, they're a little different. They might have something hazardous going on, like artillery practice. The deal is, you might be able to fly there, but you've got to do your homework first and check if the area is active or hot.
All right, so let's zoom out from the special stuff and just look at the everyday map of the sky, the National Airspace System.
First up, we have controlled airspace. The big three are Bravo, Charlie, and Delta. Just think of them as the zones around airports, from the busiest of the busy down to smaller airports with a control tower. The rule here for us drone pilots is super simple. If you want to fly in any of these, you absolutely must get authorization from air traffic control. No exceptions.
Then we have Class Echo. This is the controlled airspace that covers most of the country. But the thing is, it usually starts way up there, at either 700 or 1,200 feet off the ground. Since we're flying below 400 feet, we're almost always operating underneath the floor of Class E, so we don't typically need to get authorization.
And that brings us to our home turf, Class Golf. This is uncontrolled airspace. It's basically all the room from the ground up to where that Class E airspace starts. For most of us, this is where we live and breathe. No need to talk to ATC, unless, of course, one of those pesky TFRs decides to show up. Okay, so we've got the theory down. But knowing the rules is only half the battle, right? Now we got to talk about putting it into practice with an ironclad pre-flight routine to check for all those temporary changes we've been talking about. And that brings me to your new best friend, the NOTAM. Seriously, think of NOTAMs as the daily bulletin for pilots. If there's something new, something temporary, or something hazardous happening in the sky near you, it's going to be in a NOTAM. And checking them is easy with apps like the FAA's own Before You Fly. So, what are you actually looking for? Well, TFRs, obviously. That's the big one. But you'll also find other crucial info, like maybe a tower's lights are out along your flight path, or there's a parachute jump zone that just became active nearby. This is why checking NOTAMs is absolutely non-negotiable. All right, enough theory. Let's see how this plays out in the real world, because this is where the rubber meets the road. This scenario here highlights a classic trap that's so easy for new pilots to fall into. So picture this. You've got a simple job, just a roof inspection. You're near a smaller Class D airport, but you're planning to stay low, way down at 200 feet, well below where the airplanes are. It's easy to think, hey, I'm not bothering anyone down here, I don't need to call the tower. But that thinking is a huge mistake. Why? Because you are physically inside the boundaries of that Class D airspace, and it extends all the way down to the surface.
In this right here, this is the key. You should burn this into your brain. It's not about how high you're flying. It's about where you're flying. If the map says you're inside the lateral boundaries of controlled airspace that goes all the way to the ground, you need authorization. Period. End of story.
So let's bring it all home. It all boils down to discipline. It's about building two simple habits. First, know the permanent airspace you're flying in. And second, always, and I mean always, check for those temporary changes by reviewing the latest NOTAMs before every single flight. And I'm just going to leave you with this final thought. The airspace out there is alive. It's dynamic. A TFR can get issued at any time. Knowing the rules is one thing, and that's great, but it's not enough. The real question is, have you checked for what's changed right before you launch? Because in this game, the sky is always changing. Don't get caught off guard.